And I can say that without fear of being sued for misconstruing. This is basically Ozempic, and the same company makes Ozempic itself.
What does semaglutide do in the body? And it's taken once weekly from what we understand. Is that correct?
The treatment of chronic weight management, or obesity as we call it.
If this is not the beginnings of a news agency being captured by a major corporation, this news program is brought to you by Pfizer. This news program is brought to you by...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the On The Country podcast.
Am I allowed to swear there?
Can swear this.
Yeah, I know we said let's not blame the government.
It's just sad when we start them becoming indoctrinated. Your view on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day. Welcome to another episode of the On The Country podcast. I'm Emilio Tobias, and this is the On The Country podcast with Emilio Tobias. Today I want to react to a news story, but to give it some context, I've been realizing I had a story about news agencies or the South African Competition Commission on behalf of news agencies and news channels suing Google for unfair practices. Google seems to have been throttling South African news agencies. So when you're Googling a story, you're more likely to get an American or international news article about the thing come up first. And they took Google to court and felt that their stories aren't recommended as often as other stories, and they're claiming that this is deliberate for Google to make more money through AdSense and the websites that they do support. I don't know if you've noticed, if you're a YouTube watcher, as most of us are now, no one's watching news on DSTV or on SABC directly anymore. A lot of us are getting these clips that they're posting online. A thing that I've noticed in the last few months is that news stories used to get like 20 views, 25 views, 30 views. They are racking up thousands of views now since that article. Coincidence? I think not. Today I'm going to react to a story that has come out on the news, and there's some interesting things to notice and realize about the direction of the South African news media. The story is about a new weight loss drug being launched in South Africa. Drop me a comment and let me know if you've noticed that news videos on YouTube has started gaining thousands and thousands of views, something it was not doing before February 2025. So, new weight loss drug launched in South Africa. Here we go.
In his mission to turn the tide on obesity and obesity-related diseases in South Africa, Novo Nordisk has announced the official launch and immediate availability of semaglutide at 2.4 mg in the local market. According to the Global Obesity Observatory, 42.9% of South Africans are living with obesity, while men account for 18.2%. By 2030, nearly half of African women are projected to be overweight, with South Africa having the second highest rate on the continent after Eswatini. Well, let's talk more about this with the head of market access and public affairs at Novo Nordisk South Africa, Tabang Leping. Tabang, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you.
The funny thing about weight, and I don't know if a lot of us know this, I must sound like an EFF or MK person. We need to decolonize the way we see weight in Africa and in South Africa. Just the background. Do we know that the way BMI and where those cutoff points for obesity is, body mass index, your height versus your weight, when are you considered to be overweight or obese or over obese or whatever the different levels are? A lot of that research was done on white people, was done on Europeans. It was not done on black people or black bodies per se. Being considered obese as a black person, according to that BMI, is not 100% accurate. because generally speaking, black women in particular are more voluptuous, heavier, generally speaking, have, if we're going to talk about it, generally have bigger thighs and asses, generally have bigger boobs, but those things do not mean that you're obese, even though the Eurocentric measure for obesity is telling you that you're obese. Do you know that more or less you can be, as a woman, you can be about 3 to 13 kilograms heavier than your white counterpart and still be considered equally healthy to that person? And for men, it's about 3 to 12 or 5 to 12 kilograms heavier. The reason being, they say generally sub-Saharan Africans have a higher muscle density or have more lean muscle just because of the environment, the way we eat and all those things. So just off of that statistic, it gives a false impression of how bad obesity is in this African country.
For having me, Hugo. Appreciate the invitation.
So obviously these are exciting times, not just for you as a business, but obviously for the consumer. Because if we look at those numbers around obesity, I mean, they're particularly high and are getting projected to get higher.
They are, and it's not just the numbers in terms of the number of people that struggle with obesity on a daily basis, but it's also the amount of money we spend as a country on healthcare spend related to treating the complications of obesity. And so, yes, you're quite right. It's become a crisis for our country, not just a health crisis, but also an economic crisis, and we've got to attend to it ASAP.
So let's rewind a little bit before we talk about semaglutide and what it is that it does. People are overweight, or people are obese for a number of reasons. Part of that is diet, I'd imagine. Other could be comorbidities, etc. What does semaglutide do in the body? And it's taken once weekly from what we understand. Is that correct?
It is taken once weekly. So semaglutide 2.4 in particular is indicated in the treatment of chronic weight management or obesity as we call it. It is a once weekly injection. There is a mechanism of action, that patients could generally speak to about with their doctors in terms of how it works in the body specifically, because patients react differently. As far as even the weight loss expected would differ from one patient to the next. It is a once weekly injection. It's available from this week. And also into the following week as well, we will continue to roll it out into the pharmacies that don't have it in stock just as yet.
And the big question, obviously, is accessibility. It's available this week. It's going to roll out across the country.
If this thing sounds familiar, I watched the whole video. If this thing sounds familiar, you are correct. It sounds like it's what Ozempic is supposed to be. People have been using Ozempic off-brand, so Ozempic is generally or actually meant for treatment of severe diabetes or diabetes of sorts. I don't know which type 1, type 2, but generally Ozempic as intention is to treat diabetes. And what has happened is over time people have noticed that, this thing also helps you lose weight like crazy. So people have been either lying or doctors have been wrong in how they've been prescribing Ozempic, because now people have been using it for weight loss. And that time you don't have any diabetes. If this thing sounds familiar, interestingly enough, the active ingredient, I just watched the video, the same active ingredient in this thing is the same active ingredient in Ozempic, except this one that's intended for weight loss now, which has now been trialed and tested for weight loss, is a much higher dose. Is it much higher? Because Ozempic, I think the maximum dose is about 2 milligrams, and then this one's maximum or minimum goes up to 2.4, or it starts at 2.4 milligrams. This is the exact same thing as Ozempic, except the dosage is higher of the active ingredient, which is semaglutide. So the effects are going to be more intense, and the side effects are the same, except a bit more intense.
Is it going to be accessible?
But there's an interesting point about the fact that they don't mention the word Ozempic once. And I have a theory as to what's happening with news media. That's why I brought up the story about them winning the case against Google in the Competition Commission Court or whatever, and what I think is happening here.
Pretty much any pharmacy you go to. And let's talk about the price point, because that's obviously going to be a talking factor.
Yeah, of course, yes. It should be available in all the corporate pharmacies. And actually, I like this question because it sounds very simplistic. Where can we get it? And it is a medicine, it's a scheduled substance, and generally people should get it from a pharmacy. But we know lately with most, weight loss medications that people have been getting them from other channels outside of normal pharmacies. And so this is for us also to make sure that we create this awareness that your medicine should only be obtained from a pharmacy, a registered pharmacy, be it a corporate pharmacy or an independent pharmacy, but any pharmacy that is registered appropriately in this country should be able to dispense the medicines. Most pharmacies do have the medication already, as I say, this week, but then we will continue to make sure that we bring in the supply to all the other pharmacies, because we've actually just launched in Cape Town this past weekend, but we also had a media launch also last week as well. And so
Do you think it's fair that they are showing these depressed fat people, not all
call to action for patients is to make sure that they don't get their medicines from a salon or from any other place that is not registered,
or from a buddy,
or from a buddy or from a friend.
Yeah.
Get your medicines from a registered pharmacy. That is the only way we can ensure that you are actually getting a safe medication that has been quality tested, for efficacy and for safety as well. You ask about the price point. I mean, semaglutide 2.4 falls into the category of GLP-1 medicines, right? And if you look at those type of medicines, they have a similar pricing. And semaglutide 2.4 also falls into that category. The pricing is more or less similar, not the same as the other ones that are available, but kind of similar. So the patients that are prescribed this medicine should be able to access it with much ease, as they have been able to access other types of GLP-1s.
Can you give me a number?
I'll have you know. It took them another 4 minutes of dodging the question of price. The guy dodged the question of price. Since the video is 2 minutes, it's been 2 minutes in of him explaining everything, and they take another 2 to 4 minutes of explaining or dodging the price. And there's a reason why. And all of these are important reasons as to the conclusion I'm about to make. When you don't have medical aid, medicine is cheaper. When you are paying with medical aid, whether you are paying from medical savings or you have a benefit, a chronic benefit for the specific thing, or your medical savings is done, but you wish to get your tax benefits at the end of the month, so you run it through the medical aid. When you do that through the medical aid, the price is generally higher. In some cases, prices might even be double compared to if you paid it cash at the counter when they give you that cage to show that you don't have medical aid or you have a cut medical aid. So it took them 6 to 8 minutes to get to the bottom of the price, and he mentioned that there's different this, that, and the other, and essentially you shouldn't be paying more than 3.7 thousand for a month supply, which apparently is 4 pens that you stick in your leg or thigh or bum, same like Ozempic. This is basically Ozempic. And I can say that without fear of being sued for misconstruing. This is basically Ozempic. And I think it's the same company makes Ozempic itself. I must just double check. Let me double check again. Double check again. Does the same company make Ozempic and what do they call? I forgot the name of the brand of that thing because they're only mentioning the drug. Yes, Novo Nordisk manufactures both Ozempic and Wegovy, which has the semi-glutide as the active ingredient inside. Same company that makes Ozempic. So it's interesting that the word Ozempic won't be mentioned. I'm not going to carry on with the video because the rest of it is talking about price and side effects, which I've already mentioned. You can go look this up yourself wherever you get your information from. But an interesting thing is happening here. This is clearly a paid interview or a paid advertisement, and we are now starting to see, if it hasn't been done already, similar to what happens in America with the news media, which is sponsored by these big major pharmaceutical companies, capturing them actually. And Newzroom Africa, quite interestingly, like a few weeks ago, they started putting that thing, watermark, on all their videos on YouTube because they know we react to it. If this is not the beginnings of a news agency being captured by a major corporation, like in America, yo, this news program is brought to you by Pfizer. This news program is brought to you by, they might not be as outward with it, but now the issue with that is when your news is going to start being captured by pharmaceutical companies who are able to put, and Ozempic is not cheap. It's 3.7, Ozempic and this new thing. It's not cheap, 3.7 for 4 injections a month. That's a lot of money. That's big margins. These guys can afford to buy news agencies. These guys can afford to hide stories of adverse effects. And it might not be this drug. It might not be Ozempic. It might not be this Wegovy. But it might be other stuff that they are producing. So let me know what you think if we are headed that way. We know that, not that the news agency was captured by the Guptas, but the Guptas themselves owned a news station. So it feels like all of these guys are headed in that direction, and they're trying to replicate the capture that they have over the news the same way they've mastered to do in America. Let me know what you think. Is this worrying that pharmaceuticals are now doing what they're doing in America? Let me know what you think. And then obviously let's talk about weight and weight loss in the South African or African context and what that means. And are you struggling with obesity? I think I'm technically obese, but I might fall into that of my African genes is allowing me to be a bit bigger than my European counterpart, even though I may have European ancestry as well. When I go for medical checkups, they come back relatively good. It comes back better than anticipated by the medical professional that's undertaking my cholesterol or my blood pressure or my sugar or whatever. Not that I'm 100% healthy, I just happen to be healthier than I look. So that's an interesting thing. Let me know what you think about news corporations heading into the space, and then obviously a separate discussion on weight and weight loss in South Africa. Do you think this is a good thing? We already know that it definitely does work. This is not BioSlim and a Verimark product. These are real things. They saw that Ozempic works, so now you're getting Ozempic in higher dosages. And yeah, man, wonder if medical aid will pay for this thing. That's all we have time for. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment and share the conversation if you really enjoyed it. And if you disliked it, feel free to dislike as well. I don't mind. It gives me good feedback as to what I should do. Someone said in the comments the other day that I was boring. So now I'm working harder at getting to the point, saying what I want to say, having energy. Because, yeah, man, we're trying to make each other sleep. But thank you for watching. My name is Emilio Tobias. This is the On the Contrary podcast. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the On the Contrary podcast.
Am I allowed to swear here?
That's weird.
Yeah, I know we said let's not blame the government.
It's just sad when we start then becoming indoctrinated.
Your view on me.